Hello, my friends. Hope you're all having a good day, and this is your friendly neighborhood right-wing extremist's opinions on everyday things. Now, I love EVE Online, right? I think it's a great game, great community, great message. What people are trying to do. It brings the sort of community together, and you get these big player wars and everything. It's pretty badass, and then you get corporations that are more industry focused, whatever. But it is a cool, massively multiplayer experience, and I think it's encouraging a kind of like discipline and teamwork that you don't see in a lot of games nowadays. And I like that very much. I enjoy playing the game a lot. I enjoy interacting with the community. And I thought, you know what, I would do a factions tier list because I love the lore of the game as well, and I think they have some very cool factions. So I just open it up a tier list for the factions here. I must admit I did read up a little bit about factions beforehand because I don't know a whole lot about some of them, although I do know more about few than others, like let's say Amar, for example, which is actually our first subject, which is immediately going in S tier. Amar is just so based from the lore that I know about them, and every little bit I find out more whenever I go and I search up lore about the game. Amar is just always there. They're the Chads carrying the lore on their shoulders. So Amar is going in S tier right off the bat. Now, Amatar, from what I know about them, they are like a sort of a government faction in Amar, and they've got a lot to do with like the governing body of the Amar Empire. So I'm not gonna put them in S tier exactly. I'm not gonna be giving out S tier like candy, so they can go in A tier there. Now, Angel Cartel. Angel Cartel is an interesting one. You got they're kind of like they are a pirate faction, so that means they're terrorist scum. So I'm tempted to just put them in the D tier right away. However, if I put all of the pirate factions in D tier right off the bat, that's going to be kind of boring. So, you know what, Angel Cartel, they are a little bit more badass than your average pirate faction, so I'll put them in C tier. Now, Caldari State, it's like the mega corporation sort of turned into a state of the world. So I do like Caldari. They're also home to Jita, which is the trade hub of the game, for those who don't know. And yeah, I fly around in their space a lot whenever I'm playing the game, so I think I'll go ahead and put them in A tier above Amatar. Now Concord. Concord is I have mixed feelings about Concord. On one hand, they're very very effective at protecting you from getting ganked in one one security systems, or yeah, full sec systems, 1.0 security. But on the other hand, you get jumped in point 0.5 when you're hauling your goods through a gate, and they're nowhere to help you. And on the other hand, and then not to mention that, but you could also be getting jumped by Triglavians or Blood Raiders or whatever. I'll get into them later, and Concord will just not help you. They couldn't care less. So I don't know. I'll put them in B tier because they're pretty useless cops. All right, next up, the Drifters. The ancient enemy of Triglav. Now, I'm gonna get into Triglav later, but I do like Triglav, and Drifters are annoying, so I think I'm gonna put them in. They do have some cool lore though, so I think I'm gonna put them in B tier, right below Concord. Now, Galente, you disgusting Weimar Republic, D tier immediately. They're like the liberal Democrats of the universe, so they're going down there right away. Now, next up we have Guristas, also D tier. In fact, you know what? There we go. I'm gonna put them above Galente, but still D tier because they're just like weird. They're like the loser of the pirate faction. They do have some good relic sites though, if you're doing some exploration. Now, next up we have the Jovian. What is that word? The Jovian Directorate. I think that's what that says. Now the Jovians were pretty good. They were like from what I understand, they were like the prime of humanity when they originally moved to the New Eden Star Cluster, and they gave a bunch of technology out to the different factions and helped them develop like the Capsuleers and all that. So you know what? They're a pretty good faction. I think I'll put them in like A tier. They're not that special in my heart though, so I'll put them at the bottom of A tier. Now the Carnid Kingdom, they're basically Amar, but they're like the heretics of Amar, and they have like an illegitimate emperor. That's at least from what I understand. I don't know that all that much about them. I'll put them in B tier below the Drifters. Now Minmatar, I don't like them. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. They're basically just rebels and terrorists formed into a country. I mean, you could tell that just by looking at their logo, and like their everything from their technology to their ships to like their lore. They just come off as like a third world shithole of the four factions. So I'm not gonna put them as low as Galente because I don't despise them that much. Um, I don't know if they're worthy of C tier. In my opinion, they basically are a pirate faction, but they're given a state. So I'm gonna put them below Angel Cartel. Now, Mordu's Legion. Oh, these guys are badass. I actually did a little bit of reading about their lore before I made this video, because they were one of the factions I was unsure about. And they are badass. From what I understand, they're like an elite sort of Roman Byzantine themed legion, and they fight for the Caldari in the border conflicts against the filthy liberals. So I'm gonna put them in fact, you know what? A tier, why not? Now or mixed feelings about or again. You know, on one hand, they're carrying the industry on their back, but on another hand, it's kind of like a BMS situation from Foxhole, if you know the what's it, the Bassett Motor Society or something like that, where it's basically this group that supplies industrial grade equipment to all sides, but they're profiting off of war, and they basically are indirectly encouraging war so that they can make profit while everybody else actually ends up losing money and losing lives in the wars. So I don't know. I'd actually have to research more about the lore of ore. But from what I can tell, they're kind of like they're basically like Caldari, but they don't have a state and they're more greedy. So I don't know. I'm gonna put them in B tier below the Drifters. Although on one hand they do supply a lot of like really helpful equipment, so I'm not sure if I'm being too harsh on them. Now Sancho's Nation, I'd say again one of the more badass of the pirate factions. So I don't know. They are still a pirate faction, and they do some damage. Like I think I'm pretty sure they're the ones that do like the incursions in some areas of like low sec and stuff. So I'm not too sure. They could definitely be annoying, and I think I lost a ship to them once. So you know what, D tier, but I'm gonna put them on the top of D tier. All right. Next up we have Serpentes, again pirate faction. However, they seem a little bit more organized and a little bit more like careful about how they do things. So I'll bump them up to C tier. Um, Sisters of Eve. I don't know much about them, honestly. Hold on. Okay, so after going and doing some research on the Sisters of Eve, they're basically like the Methodist Church of New Eden. They're pretty based. They think that like God's kingdom is on the other side of the Eve Gate, and they think that like helping those who are suffering from like wars and famines and such is a righteous mission. So overall, pretty good faction. I don't know if I don't know where to put them because A tier is kind of piling up right now. But they are quite a good faction. I'm thinking, I'll put them in maybe bottom of A tier, why not? Now, Blood Raiders, I think maybe the only pirate faction I'll give the honor of B tier, just because they're pretty badass. I think I might have also lost a ship to them once, but it doesn't matter. Interbus, you know what, just based organization, just S tier. I'm joking. they're basically like a sort of neutral transportation alliance between the factions. I don't know, they do kind of give the vibe of the sort of Giga Chad meme, you know, with the bus driver just coming into an active war zone just to deliver some groceries or something. That's the kind of vibe I get from Interbus. So I don't know, I don't know, I'll put them in B tier above Concord. Society of Conscious Thought. I don't know exactly what to think of these guys. I haven't read up enough about them to know that much about their lore. However, I get the vibe that they're kind of like you know, smug, like keeper of knowledge kind of people. Although on the other hand, they do make some very cool tech that I love to play around with whenever I'm in game. Like I'm pretty sure the ship that I lost to Sancho one time might have been a Gnosis, which is one of those ships made by Society of Conscious Thought. So I don't know. Overall, a pretty cool faction. Um, I think I'll put them in A tier below Sisters of Eve. And let's see, what is that? The Intaki Syndicate. Hold on. Okay, so from what I can see, the Intaki Syndicate is basically just like, it's sort of pirates that are collected from both Galente and Caldari, and they originally split off from the Democrats, so they're like the worst of both worlds. So I'm gonna put them right down here, and they have like pirate havens, which I imagine being super degenerate and disgusting, so yeah, definitely D tier for them, right at the bottom. Now, Thurkur tribe, I don't know if I'm saying that right. They're just like a tribe sort of split off from Minmatar. They're again give the vibe of being like, you know, third world primitive shithole. So I'm gonna put them below Serpentis. In fact, I'm gonna put them right here between Sancha and Gruistus. Ooh, Triglav. Triglav. One of the most. I have mixed feelings about them because, on one hand, in the lore, they sort of invaded and, like, wiped out entire planets and killed stargates and attacked the four empires, including Amar, my favorite. So I don't know, actually. But on the other hand, they have the coolest looking ships, the coolest looking characters, the most badass looking lore. Um, Honestly, A tier or S tier, sorry. I think this, yeah. Now I step back and have a look. I don't know if there's any faction on this list that I would necessarily bump up to S tier. Maybe like Mordew's Legion, but I'm not sure. So this, I think, yeah, I'm happy with this as my complete EVE Online tier list. Now I will be actually, I don't think I've used this much. Can I like save this and then other people can search up and see what I ranked them as or what? But yeah, this is my tier list. Okay, this was your friendly neighborhood right-wing extremist's opinion on everyday things. I hope you're all having a good day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more like it. God bless you all, my friends.